What's up, football fans? Ryan Thomas here live for a special annual episode of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast as I'm back on here. Another offseason, another NFL draft is on the horizon. The 2021 NFL draft begins April 29th. Today is April 17th, 2021, and I'm here on the show today to give you my very first NFL mock draft, first round NFL mock draft for this year's NFL draft, the 2021 NFL draft. I'm very pumped up for this one. There are a lot of different storylines heading into this draft, as there are each and every draft. But this draft, I think we'll see some unprecedented picks in succession. I'll get to that in a little bit. But first, I want to remind you guys to subscribe to the Thomas Take Sports Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, as well as Google Podcasts. You can find me as well on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Much love, appreciate it, and like the Thomas Take Sports Podcast on Facebook. Greatly appreciate the love and support from each and every one of you that have tuned into the show the last 5 years. So let's get right to it. Obviously, the first few picks are going to be very easy to predict. First overall selection is held by the Jacksonville Jaguars as they won the Derby. They won the tank for Trevor sweepstakes, and obviously this pick is pretty easy. Urban Meyer would not have elected to go into the National Football League as a new head coach in this league had it not been for the more likely than not arrival of Trevor Lawrence going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's the number one prospect at quarterback for me in this draft. As I did my top 5 quarterback big board, Trevor Lawrence slotted in at number 1, 6'6", 225, 230 pounds. A lot of talent evaluators, a lot of scouts believe that Trevor Lawrence needs to build up some bulk, needs to get bigger, needs to get stronger. But I think this is a great pick for the Jaguars. It revitalizes that franchise, revitalizes that market, and puts a stamp on their franchise. They haven't had a player of his magnitude in quite some time, if ever. So Trevor Lawrence going first overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars in the 2021 NFL draft. Second overall, the New York Jets hold the second overall pick, and I think we will see the Jets take a quarterback now that the Jets have moved on from Sam Darnold. The Sam Darnold era is over. A lot of reporters, a lot of insiders within the New York Jets organization believe that the Jets will take Brigham Young University quarterback Zach Wilson. I've let my opinion be known on that. I think that in terms of my quarterback ranking, Zach Wilson is not rated as my second best quarterback in this class, but depending on how these teams pick and picking how I think these teams will pick in this mock draft, I have Zach Wilson going number 2 overall to the New York Jets. I think Wilson is a little bit overrated beyond his pro day. We started to see a lot of people out there say that Zach Wilson was the second coming of Jesus Christ practically beyond his pro day. I disagree with that. I think there's a lot of room for Zach Wilson to grow. And I don't know if Zach Wilson is that type of quarterback to step in and take that number 1 spot, that QB1 role, immediately in the process of being a rookie in this league. I don't know if Zach Wilson is that guy to be that year 1, week 1 type quarterback. But nonetheless, 2 quarterbacks off the board in the first 2 selections with Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson. Now, this is where the draft really gets started here. The draft really gets started 3rd overall. What player will the 49ers take? They moved up with the Miami Dolphins to make this trade to get this 3rd overall selection. They have Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. I don't quite know how high is Jimmy Garoppolo on the list of, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan? Do they see him as that future quarterback, present and future quarterback for this organization? I'm going to lean towards no. I would be stunned if this pick wasn't a quarterback. I would be stunned if the 49ers made this big of a trade, made this big of a move to not take a quarterback. And I have the San Francisco 49ers taking quarterback Justin Fields. And a lot of mock drafts out there have Justin Fields as, their second, or a lot of big boards, I should say, have Justin Fields as the second best quarterback in this class. I agree with that assessment. There's a lot to like about Justin Fields on the field. There's even more to like about Justin Fields off of the field. checks off each and every box. He's got toughness. He's got discipline. He's got leadership. And I think those are all qualities that you look for in a quarterback. In particular, with Justin Fields, I see the toughness, especially in the national championship. He takes a big lick and, continues to play in that game with a pair of broken ribs. So Justin Fields, to me, I think would add a new dimension to the San Francisco 49ers offense. This 49ers offense is already a high-paced offense. You got Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. You got Brandon Ayuk. You add a quick-paced passer like Justin Fields to this team, and I think the good thing about Justin Fields in this scenario, in this situation, is you don't have to worry about Justin Fields stepping in week one like you would about, Zach Wilson. The 49ers have a veteran quarterback that's capable of starting games in this league in Jimmy Garoppolo, who can fill that spot for the time being while Justin Fields is somewhat in the process of learning the playbook and learning the speed of the NFL. Would we see Justin Fields necessarily take that week one role? I'm not quite sure. It depends if the 49ers potentially find a trade partner to land the services of Jimmy Garoppolo, then maybe Justin Fields takes that week one role. But I think, no matter what, the 49ers are in a pretty good spot here if they do take Justin Fields. I think the debate internally is whether they take Justin Fields or Trey Lance or Mac Jones. I think they should go with Fields. I think Fields is truly the second best quarterback in this draft class to, of course, Trevor Lawrence. 4th overall, the Atlanta Falcons. Now, this is a pick that has been rumored to be in the trade circles. The Falcons have said that they're willing to shop the pick to the highest bidder. They want to trade out of this pick, move out of this pick, and find a trade partner to potentially land them more picks. But for the sake of the mock draft, I'm just going to assume that the Falcons stay at the 4th overall selection and find themselves landing one of the best offensive playmakers, I think the best offensive playmaker in this draft, Kyle Pitts. A pretty rare scenario where a tight end goes before a single wide receiver in a draft, especially in the top 5. Kyle Pitts landing with the Atlanta Falcons. I think Atlanta is in that really small window here to make this offense even better than it already is with Matty Ice, with Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley. Kyle Pitts is going to be fantasy football heaven for fantasy football gold, I should say, for fantasy football owners if this does happen. I think Kyle Pitts is a great fit for this Atlanta Falcons offense, and this is a solid selection by the Atlanta Falcons if they make it. 5th overall, the Cincinnati Bengals, picking 5th, going from 1st to 5th. Last year they took Joe Burrow. I think they're going to take the best tackle in the draft to protect Joe Burrow. It's not rocket science here. When you take a quarterback that high last year in Joe Burrow, you got to get pieces around him to protect him and pieces around him to allow him to succeed. And I think Penei Sewell will do that. This is the best tackle, in my opinion, in this draft. He's a mauler. He's a big tackle, and he can move. He's got great feet. I think Penei Sewell will be the number 1 tackle in this draft, selected as such, going as early as 5th overall to the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't think Cincinnati needs any offensive playmakers. Their defense needs a ton of work, but here the talent is undeniable. Penei Sewell going to the Cincinnati Bengals at 5th overall. Next up, the first pick of the Miami Dolphins draft. They moved out of the 3rd pick back to the 12th pick and then made a trade with the Philadelphia Eagles to acquire the 6th overall selection in this draft, and I have them taking Heisman Trophy winner and former receiver for Tua Tagovailoa, wide receiver Devontae Smith out of Bama. I think you make a move to go back into the top 6 if you're Miami to take an offensive playmaker to surround Tua with a solid weapon. Miami invested in the offensive line in last year's draft. They've invested in the offensive line in previous off seasons. Doesn't mean they won't invest in the offensive line later in this draft, but I do believe the Miami Dolphins will take the best player available, one of the best offensive playmakers available in Devonta Smith, Heisman Trophy winner, reuniting him with their quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa. Now, 7th overall, the Detroit Lions, they made a big move, trading Matt Stafford, acquiring some picks from the LA Rams. I truly believe that this is a pick much like the Dolphins pick. You're going to take the best player available in terms of offensive production. collegiate offensive production. Ja'Marr Chase checks off those boxes as LSU's number one wide receiver this past year. I think Ja'Marr Chase will be the apple of Detroit's eye and will find himself playing in Detroit Rock City with Jared Goff and the Lions. 8th overall, the Carolina Panthers take the number one corner off the board here. In my opinion, he's the best corner in this draft. A lot of people are debating that position as well, but to me, South Carolina's J.C. Horn is selected by the Carolina Panthers 8th overall. You could have went in the direction of taking a quarterback if you were Carolina in this position a couple weeks ago, but they did just trade for Sam Darnold. They didn't have to trade too much in this year's draft capital to get Sam Darnold, but they gave up a 2nd and 4th in the 2022 NFL draft to acquire Sam Darnold. I have the Panthers taking the number one corner in this draft, J.C. Horn. Carolina has a ton of needs on the defensive side of the ball, but I think J.C. Horn is someone that can fill in right away, be that immediate impact type player, and slot himself in as the second, as the first best corner in this draft, but as one of the top talent players on this team. Number 9, 9th overall, the Denver Broncos select quarterback Trey Lance. Now, Trey Lance is one of my favorite prospects in this draft, and I say favorite not in the sense that I think that he will be a number, week 1 starter. I like prospects that they have room to grow. Their ceiling is higher than their skill set heading into the NFL. I think Trey Lance could be one of those guys, much like Josh Allen, who comes into the league as somewhat a raw prospect at the quarterback position, but that there's talent there. That there's size. That there's arm strength. Denver has swung and missed so many times, taking a quarterback beyond the Peyton Manning era. We talk about Paxton Lynch being one of those guys, Brock Osweiler being one of those guys. Trey Lance, I think this is a quarterback that Drew Lock is a solid prospect as well. I had him rated as one of the better quarterbacks in his class, but the progression has just been too slow for me to not kick the tires on this idea. I don't think Denver needs any one player more than they need a quarterback. You can make the case that Denver is a quarterback away from being a competitive team again. I know that they didn't have the best season last year, but their defense is still pretty good. Their offense still has some weapons on it, and the quarterback situation is still a big question mark. So with that, I have them taking Trey Lance. North Dakota Bison quarterback Trey Lance, going to John Elway's team, the Denver Broncos. 10th overall, Dallas Cowboys. It's always intriguing to see what Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones will do. I think as the years have gone on, Jerry Jones has taken a little bit of a backseat in terms of personnel decisions, whereas Stephen Jones, the son of Jerry Jones, has decided to really take that mantle and take on the mantle of picking these players. Not that Jerry isn't in charge, but Jerry listens to Stephen Jones. Stephen Jones has a eye for talent in the collegiate ranks and wants to put his fingerprints on this team. Look no further than Patrick Surtain II. I think that the corner position in this draft, the top 5, a big board, if you will, if you're to put together a top 5 big board, J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain, the debate is which one is better. There are certain skill sets within Patrick Surtain that I think give him that little bit of an edge on J.C. Horn. But for the defenses that the Panthers play within, and for the defenses that for the defense, I should say, that the Cowboys play within, I believe that both of those guys, J.C. Horn fits the Panthers a little bit better, and Patrick Surtain II fits the Dallas Cowboys a little bit better. So that's why I have Surtain going at 10 to Dallas, and J.C. Horn going 8th overall to the Carolina Panthers. And that will drastically change things for Dallas. I think that Surtain is one of the easiest fit to a team in this draft as far as being that immediate impact guy that can make that difference. And you look at that pick and you think, wow, that's a really solid selection. The New York Giants at 11th overall, they made a lot of investments in skill position players on offense. They signed Kenny Galladay in free agency. I think that was a great pick, great signing, I should say. I think this is a great pick, though, for Giants quarterback Danny Jones, you got to get protection for Danny Jones, who's running for his life last year, much like Josh Allen was in his rookie season with Buffalo. Danny Jones needs some protection. You need that solid center. Rashawn Slater, he can play guard or center. I like him as an offensive lineman in this draft, and I think he makes a ton of sense for the Giants at 11th overall. Philadelphia Eagles now. They make a solid decision to move back and acquire picks, and to acquire picks to accumulate capital and to accumulate young talent for their team. They're in a little bit of a revamp, rebuild mode. To move back from 6 to 12 and to take a player the caliber of Jalen Waddle at wide receiver for the University of Alabama, the Crimson Tide, he reunites himself with former Bama quarterback, former Oklahoma quarterback, Jalen Hurts, now current QB1 of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now that they had just sent packing Carson Wentz, I think Jalen Waddle makes a ton of sense. When Jalen Hurts was asked which Bama upcoming rookie wide receiver would have the best NFL career, Hurts replied Jalen Waddle. So I think that they match that pair. They match that Bama with Bama teammate duo, much like Miami did. We see those guys stick together. Chargers on the clock at 13th overall. They select offensive lineman Aliha Vera Tucker out of the University of Southern California. This guy's a thumper, great run blocker, great pass blocker. If you want Justin Herbert to build on his success from his rookie year, unprecedented success as a rookie, Justin Herbert builds on that success in year 2 with a lineman by the name of Aliha Vera Tucker, a lineman that I really like. There are a ton of great offensive linemen in this draft, and I have a few of them going in this first round. Look no further as we move forward to the 14th overall selection with the Minnesota Vikings. They take Christian Darrisaw. I really like Christian Darrisaw as well. The Vikings have a few needs here at this pick, but I think the offensive linemen in this class are very solid. It's a rarity to have linemen that can play tackle and guard at this, rate in the first round, going in the first round at this high of a clip. I have a few offensive linemen going in this first round in the top 14. Obviously Sewell, as I talked about, Rashawn Slater, Ali Vera Tucker, and now Christian Darrisaw. I think we'll go to the Minnesota Vikings at 14. Minnesota is kind of in a weird spot, right? They're either really good one year or really bad another year. They're a run-first team. Look no further than bringing about a pass-blocking offensive tackle in Christian Darrisaw, as well as a run-blocking offensive tackle in Darrisaw. 15th overall, the New England Patriots, moving on to the top 15. Closing the book, I should say, on the top 15. The New England Patriots, in my opinion, select linebacker/defensive end Zaven Collins. This was a very tough decision for me in this mock draft because right now you only have 4 quarterbacks off the board here. And could the Patriots take a quarterback here? Should they take a quarterback here? Should the Patriots trade up? That's a team that I think makes a ton of sense to trade up for a quarterback. If you're looking at Patriots trading up to get Justin Fields, if you're looking at the Patriots to trade up and take Trey Lance, maybe Mac Jones. Mac Jones still available on my mock draft list here, but I have the Patriots passing on Mac Jones due to the fact that they didn't get Justin Fields. And I think that they will take a Bill Belichick-type player in Zaven Collins who can play linebacker, who can play defensive end in this defense. Let's face it, this Patriots defense is starting to get a little bit older now. They need to get some youth there on the defensive unit, linebacker unit, defensive line. Zaven Collins fills that spot. So I also have next up on the list here, as I messed up the banners, the Arizona Cardinals. So for the viewing audience out there, you won't see the banner of the Arizona Cardinals, but for the audio audience, you'll hear me say who I believe the Arizona Cardinals will pick. And to me, I mean, Arizona's had a solid offseason. They get J.J. Watt, but they paid him a lot of money. And I just don't know what needs can be filled here at this spot for the Cardinals outside of corner. Caleb Farley, corner out of Virginia Tech, I think makes a ton of sense for the Arizona Cardinals. Patrick Peterson is now gone. He's in Minnesota now. So you bring in a corner to fill that role in that defense. 17th overall, the Raiders select offensive guard Jackson Carman out of Clemson. Now, the Raiders have had such a weird offseason. To me, it has looked as if the Raiders have actually weakened one of the biggest strengths of their roster, letting go of 3/5 of their offensive line. They have a ton of needs on the defensive side of the ball, but being that they aggressively dispatched their offensive line, I believe that Jackson Carman will be the pick here for the Las Vegas Raiders, and they got to fill those holes. That line is going to be Swiss cheese this year if they do not fill those holes, and Jackson Carman does help that. So 18th overall here, the Miami Dolphins with their second first-round selection. They take one of the best linebackers in this draft, in my opinion, out of Linebacker University, Penn State University, Micah Parsons. Kyle Van Noy, one and done in Miami. They let him go. Wasn't up to snuff for Dolphins head coach Brian Flores. I think Brian Flores, B-Flow, picks Micah Parsons out and plucks him out here at 18 and says, wow, I was able to get a highly talented linebacker in this draft, and Micah Parsons. I think that this is a great pick here for the Miami Dolphins. Hate to say it, I don't want the Dolphins to do too well, but I think that this is a great pick for them here at 18 overall. So 19th overall, at the 19th overall selection, the 2021 NFL Draft, I have Washington Football Team selecting the offensive guard known as Alex Leatherwood. Now, this is a team that they need to protect their vet. They need to protect Ryan Fitzpatrick. That will be the starter, in my opinion. It should be the starter, in my opinion, for the Washington Football Team, as Fitz came off of his best football in his career, in my opinion, with the Miami Dolphins. He moves on, plays for his 9th National Football League team, the Washington Football Team. Alex Leatherwood, the pick there for the Washington Football Team. Now, here's where things get interesting. I mentioned earlier that Mac Jones was not selected yet in this mock draft, that the team could select him, could be as high as 3rd overall with the San Francisco 49ers. I think they should go with Justin Fields. Then you look at 15th overall with the New England Patriots. I have them taking Zaven Collins. 20th overall, Mac Jones. His green room wait does not last much longer. It ends with the 20th overall selection as the Chicago Bears will select quarterback Mac Jones. Now, I think the Bears are lying to themselves, saying that Andy Dalton is worthy at this point in Andy Dalton's career of being their QB1. I think that there are other quarterbacks out there that they could have went out and got that would have been better options than Andy Dalton. Even Ryan Fitzpatrick would have been a better option, I think, at this stage of his career in comparison to Andy Dalton. Even, picking up that 5th-year option on Mitch Trubisky, not necessarily that would have been smart, but let's go back to the negotiation table with Mitch Trubisky if you're Chicago and say, look, the first 4 years didn't work out. That means we're keeping you on the cheap these upcoming years, but they just didn't want anything to do with the Mitchell Trubisky experiment anymore. He is gone. He is now backing up Josh Allen in Buffalo on a 1-year deal. So Chicago goes back to the well here, and I think that they take Mac Jones. Mac Jones has garnered comparisons to guys like Tom Brady, Carson Palmer. I see a little bit of that, but pump the brakes on the Tom Brady discussion for now. Mac Jones is in a solid spot, though, going to Chicago, as he will have the opportunity to learn behind Andy Dalton. Nick Foles, I still believe, is there. So, you're surrounding yourself with some veteran quarterbacks, but Chicago, with this kid, with this pick, Mac Jones, let's not throw him into the line of fire. Let's allow him to learn. Let's allow him to sit behind some veteran quarterbacks and learn the speed of the game. I think that's where they went drastically wrong with Mitch Trubisky. 21st overall, the Indianapolis Colts select one of my favorite defensive ends, pass rushers in this draft, Kwity Paye of Michigan. Michigan Wolverine, Kwity Paye. I like Kwity Paye. I like saying his name. It's an awesome name, and I've probably mispronounced it a bunch of times on this show, but I think the Colts find themselves one of the better pass rushers in this draft. The 21st overall selection makes a ton of sense here to find yourself at this pick with Kwity Paye. Titans select cornerback Tyson Campbell, adding to that defense. You don't have some pieces on that defense now that have moved on in free agency. I think Tyson Campbell makes a ton of sense as I breeze through this 20 to 30th overall selection to get to the Buffalo Bills here. I know Bills fans are clamoring for that. The second first-round selection, the Jets take one of the best tackling machine linebackers in this draft in Jamin Davis. I think the need for the Jets at linebacker is glaring. C.J. Mosley hasn't really lived up to the contract that they gave him. He was a one-and-done year, I guess you could say. He played for the Jets his first year, was a COVID opt-out player his second year. Getting Jamin Davis, pairing him with C.J. Mosley now coming back off of that COVID opt-out, I think would be great for that defense there with the New York Jets and Robert Saleh. The Steelers select cornerback Aaron Robinson and add to their defense. Aaron Robinson, I think, is a solid corner. He's got a lot of size, very strong, very, very long. I like Aaron Robinson a lot. Jacksonville Jaguars add to their defense, I should say, by selecting Christian Barmore, defensive end, defensive tackle. One of those players that I like in the back end of this first round. One of those players that I think will be an immediate impact guy for the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Cleveland Browns add to their defense. They just brought in Jadeveon Clowney. They add Jalen Phillips out of the University of Miami. I like Jalen Phillips a lot. I feel like he's a solid fit for this defense, and that's why I have him slotted here at 26 to Cleveland. Baltimore Ravens select Penn State Nittany Lion defensive end, offensive or outside linebacker, I should say, Jason Owai. You have Micah Parsons going at 18 to the Miami Dolphins, and I think that at 27, the Ravens will select Jason Owai. And 28th overall. Now, you have the Saints. They're losing Drew Brees. They have Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill. I don't know what to think of that whole situation. A quarterback, you can make a case that maybe the Saints move up to take a Mac Jones. Maybe they move up to take a Trey Lance. I don't know. To move up from 28 to 9 or to 28 to the top 15 to take a Mac Jones, I think would cost the Saints too much. And you have to see what your investment is. If it was a worthy investment on Jameis Winston, is that guy a flat-out bust, or could he resurrect his career on another team? That's a question that I think the Saints want to answer, and a question that the Saints have to answer before they make a drastic move for another quarterback. So I have them taking a safe player here, Trayvon Moehrig, safety that I really like, and back-to-back safety picks here, actually, as the Green Bay Packers select safety Greg Newsome. Which brings us to the 30th overall pick, which is held by your favorite football team, my favorite football team, a team that I cover on the daily on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, none other than the Buffalo Bills. And at 30th overall, they have plenty of options. A lot of Bills fans are wondering, should they take a running back? Could it be Travis Etienne? Could it be Najee Harris? I am going to say nay on either idea. That at the first round draft choice, the 30th overall pick in this draft, we're living in a passing league, folks. And we're talking about a passing team with the Buffalo Bills. What player that is still on this board could be an immediate impact guy that could bring a new edge to this team? And I'm talking whether it's offensively or defensively. But in particular, on the defensive side of the ball, this player would do that and then some. I look at the linebacker core for this Buffalo Bills team. It leaves something to be desired. Tremaine Edmonds had a little bit of an inconsistent year as a middle linebacker, but he needs some help. The Bills won't deviate from that plan of Tremaine Edmonds being a stout linebacker in this league. I think the ceiling for him is super high, and I think he's only going to get better as he gets older. We got to keep in mind, when the Bills drafted Tremaine Edmonds, he was 19 years old. And Matt Milano just got an extension with the Buffalo Bills. So they like Milano. They like Edmonds. I think Edmonds will find his way with a long-term extension and one Bills drive. But I think you have to add another linebacker to that trio to make it a solid trio, a more solid trio. Look no further than Notre Dame Fighting Irish linebacker Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I really like this player. I really like this pick for the Buffalo Bills. I think he makes a ton of sense. He adds that grit, that edge, that determination factor to this defense. And let's face it, this defense within the Buffalo Bills organization this past season looked a little bit lackadaisical in comparison to their defense 2 years ago. So I think Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, a great pick for the Buffalo Bills at 30th overall. Great value here is you can make the case that Owusu-Koramoah could be a top 15 pick, could go as high as 18 to Miami, maybe even into the top 15, but Buffalo gets him at 30. I really like this pick for the Bills. He's a great run defender. He's a great sideline-to-sideline linebacker. He's smart. He's got that leadership ability that he showed for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I think this pick is would actually be too good to be true for the Buffalo Bills if Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah landed with the Buffalo Bills at 30. So that's what I have. That's where I have Buffalo. That's who I have Buffalo picking, I should say. Kansas City Chiefs, AFC champions once again. They select offensive tackle Jalen Mayfield. Now, Kansas City, I mean, they have had a lot of distractions this offseason, whether it's Andy Reid's son and the DUI and the accident and everything like that. Jalen Mayfield, offensive tackle, I have them taking here due in large part to the fact that the Chiefs have lost bits and pieces of their offensive line along the way. Mitch Morse goes to Buffalo, then they lose Eric Fisher, and they lose a few pieces here. I think Jalen Mayfield here is the pick for the Chiefs, which brings me to the final pick of the first round, the 2021 NFL Draft with the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Have them taking Georgia Bulldog defensive end linebacker Azeez Ojulari. A little bit of a green pass rusher here. Will he step in with Tampa Bay right away and take snaps from Shaquille Barrett? No, that will not happen. But to put this guy in the pipeline of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, I think is very important. Todd Bowles was the unsung hero of the Tampa Bay Bucs Super Bowl championship victory, and I think that this player fits in really, really well with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. So there you have it. I mean, that's the first round NFL mock draft, the 2021 NFL draft. First round mock draft show. I really love diving deep into the draft discussion. I hope you guys enjoyed it. 30th overall. Spoiler alert, the Buffalo Bills select linebacker out of Notre Dame, my guy, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. That's who I want the Bills to take at that pick, and I think things fall perfectly in place for the Bills to take Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. That's not to say that we can't maybe trade up into the early stages of the second round and take, whoever we desire. I think Brandon Beane is going to move around the draft a little bit more than he has in years past. That's not to say he hasn't moved around in drafts of years past. He moved up to take Josh Allen. He moved up to take Tremaine Edmonds. Moved up to take Cody Ford. So we'll see what happens. Moved up to take Dawson Knox as well. So we'll see what happens, but I'm very excited for April 29th. It can't get here soon enough. I'm Ryan Thomas. That was the 2021 first round NFL mock draft show presented by the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care. Stay safe, everybody. And last and certainly not least, go Bills.